You've probably seen online or on TV commercials trying to convince you to buy silver coins or silver bars. And you've probably thought to yourself, should I buy silver? Well, the short story to this is no, you shouldn't. But the long answer is maybe you should. Let's dig into it. Recently, I did an investment tier list video, and I gave silver the rank of C. Now, some people might think this is a little too low, some might think it's high, but for me, I think C tier is the perfect spot for precious metals. Mostly because they can't necessarily compete with other types of investments, but they do protect you against inflation, so it's not going to really hurt you as far as losing value when you invest in silver. But my main problem with silver is that it just can't compare or stand up to things such as like a 401k, a Roth, a health savings account, or basically anything that can outdo or outcompete inflation. And I want to dive into this and show you some historical charts. That way you can kind of see where I'm coming from and why I think precious metals belong in C tier. So let's look at this chart here. As you can see, the Dow Jones is in the blue, the S&P 500 is in the red, gold is in the gold color, and silver is in the silver color. Right now we're looking at a 10-year return chart, and as you can see, the Dow Jones and S&P 500 definitely do outperform gold and silver. Over the long haul, it is a difference between the S&P 500 having about 181% return, gold having about a 78% return, silver having about a 44% return, and the Dow Jones having a 133% return. So, as you can see, over 10 years, when you look at this chart, gold and silver just cannot compete. There are an instance here during COVID, during times of uncertainty, where gold and silver did spike up, and they actually got close to competing with the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. But on the long haul here, if you invest in the stock market, you are going to outperform precious metals. And we can even see this exaggerated. Let's go to 80-year return. You can see the differences between the two metals. It is such a drastic overview of how different these metals perform. There are a couple of years, so in the 70s and 80s, silver did outperform, and they got really close again in around 2012, 2010. And when these outperform these metals, they only outperform during times of uncertainty, when resources become scarce, and you can't really have a good investing strategy if you're just trying to time the market. That's not investing, that's speculating. And I think that's my biggest issue I have with precious metals. A lot of people who invest in them are saying they're waiting for, I hear crazy things like World War III is happening, or we're going to run out of oil, or there's going to be all these shortages, and then we're going to be really set when we've got our silver and gold. But I don't think that's a good idea or mantra to have, right? Because if we're technically going into World War III, or there's all these shortages, I don't think silver and gold is going to protect you when China invades, or I don't think you can eat silver and gold. Now, you can trade things with silver and gold, and that's ultimately what I think they're aiming at. Is they're going to say, well, gold and silver is going to have so much value that we're going to be able to trade and do different things and buy currencies with it. But no matter how much gold and silver you have, if it gets to the point where gold and silver is becoming the main currency, we have bigger problems on our hands. And to be frank, I don't think it matters how much precious metals you have. Everyone's in the world of hurt. But that's my issue I have. When you just look at returns, gold and silver are not going to win, and if it ever gets to the point where gold and silver are beating the dollar, the United States is in a world of hurt, and I don't think I'm going to be touting, I've got 1,000 ounces of silver. First off, it's going to get stolen in those circumstances, and you've got bigger things to worry about, like getting food and medicine for your family and yourself. But the one thing I will say that I do see some credence to buying gold and silver, this is the one thing I see that it's good about it, is that it can protect your wealth. I don't think gold and silver is a good wealth builder, but I think it can protect it from inflation. And that is the one caveat I have with my statement about it being the inferior investment, is that if you do use it, to protect your wealth. So let's say you buy up a bunch of silver, you are always going to end up beating inflation. Silver has always, throughout history and throughout time, has had value, and it has always usually stayed and competed and gone above that inflation value mark. But let's dive into that. I want to talk about that a little bit more, about how you can look at silver in a positive light when investing. Because I do think that is a valid option, but I do still think that it needs to be a smaller part of your portfolio. So I am highly critical of this investment as far as its wealth building properties, but I do think if you're looking at it from a wealth protection standpoint, there is some validity with it. Now, I do have some silver. I don't have much. I've got a couple of bars. I have a couple of rounds, some junk silver, and then I do have a little bit of American Eagles, but this is about it. And I do see the value in it. I want to keep it a small position in my portfolio, which it obviously is. This is a very small position, but I do see what people say when they are trying to use it as a wealth protector. I really do. Silver has always been worth something. It's been worth, if nothing else, it's worth its property and value in its modern uses. So it's used in medicines, technology, nuclear reactors, and a bunch of other industries. It's got a very long track record as well, so it's been used all the way back since 3100 BC with the Sumerians as a currency. You can see it in the Bible. Christ himself was betrayed for 30 pieces of silver. And in the modern day, these silver eagles here, they actually have a face value of $1. So I could go out, and I've got 5 of them, so I could buy, $5 worth of stuff with it, but their silver content obviously highly outweighs its face value. So from that standpoint, I can see silver stackers saying, well, the face value is obviously less than the silver content, so that just shows silver's a good investment. That's what they'd say. And again, I'm not going to try to argue that it's not a hedge against inflation or the dollar, because I do think that's its whole purpose. But I think it lacks in its ability to generate wealth. So I could see if you're happy with where your wealth is at and now you just kind of want to preserve it, definitely go add some silver to it, right? Who am I? I am a random person on the internet. But I do think that if you're really trying to build your wealth, there are better alternatives that you need to focus on. And if you really like it, because I do like silver in general, I think it's an interesting concept, you can have a very small position, and every now and then you can add and buy to it. But overall, I don't think silver is a great wealth builder. Just use it to protect your wealth, if anything. And if you like what you heard here, or if you don't like what you heard, definitely leave a comment and watch my ranking video. I'll leave a link at the top, and I'll also leave it at the end of this video for you guys to see, all the different investments I ranked and where they stacked up against each other. But as always, thanks for watching. Be safe, and time is on your side, guys. Thank you.